Good morning and welcome to our 288th program. I'm Gordy Galusha and I'd like to introduce my grandson Daniel again. And we're going to be making today homemade tomato soup, a grilled cheese sandwich, and I'm going to be making a cake called Are You Kidding Me Cake. And I'm going to start off with my cake. I have it all ready to do and I'm going to start mixing it. There's only 3 ingredients in this, which is very easy. There's a cake mix, 3 eggs, and a can of cherry pie filling. You can use any kind of a pie filling that you would like, but I happen to have a cherry pie filling and I wanted to get rid of it so I could restock. So this is what I am doing. This looks like it's okay. I'm going to mix it up a little bit. This bowl sometimes doesn't get everything all mixed up in the bottom, so you have to take a spatula and mix it all over again. Okay, so I'm going to pour it into my 9x13 pan. So I poured it into my 9x13 pan, and I'm going to put it into a 350-degree oven for 35 minutes. Okay, that's all ready to put in the oven. I'll take my hands off here. Okay, I'm going to set my timer for 35 minutes. And now we're going to move over to Daniel.
All right, to start out our soup, we got our pan nice and warm. I have it on a medium heat right now. I'm gonna add a little bit of olive oil to the pan to warm up. Once the oil's in, I'm just gonna put a pinch red pepper flake in there to season it up a little. Now once the pan's all ready, I'm going to start the tomatoes. I have 2 types of tomatoes here, plum tomatoes and on the vine ripe tomatoes. I'm going to just cut the plum tomatoes in half and add them to the pan with the oil. That's too hot. Turn that down. Whoa. Now if it's hissing and spitting like that, it means it is too hot. And you just gotta turn it down and let it cool off a little. As you add your vegetables, it will cool down just because you're adding colder ingredients than the oil. And once we get all of our tomatoes in, on to the next step, adding a little salt to the tomatoes so that they give up their water and we have a base for our soup. Now what I'm doing now is just cutting out the stems because I don't need all that fiber in the soup. And those are a couple extra tomatoes that we're not going to use right now. And once we get all the tomatoes in the pan, I'm going to add a little salt to help those tomatoes lose that water so we get extra flavorful soup. A little black pepper on top of that as well. You don't want too much of this. Just want a little idea that it's there. And once that's done, give it a little stir. Flip them over a little so that the blistered skin can start peeling and that the juices from the inside of the tomato can get released into the pan. And while those are face down and releasing all their water, all their juice, you can prepare the other vegetables to start going with them. Now the two other vegetables we have working today, garlic and red onion. Now you don't even need half a red onion for this. This is just to add a little sweetness to the soup, to cut back the acidity and the bitterness from the tomato skins, because we're keeping those on the entire time. And we just want to dice the onion up so it doesn't cook, so it cooks fast and reduces while we are cooking the rest of the dish. That's about half a cup of onion. We're just going to toss that in with the tomatoes. And let them sit and simmer and get translucent, give up a little sweetness, get the dish really rounded out. Once we're done with the tomatoes, we got to peel our garlic and get to the bulbs. Easiest way to do that, just take the heel of your wrist, press down hard. I'm going to need about three large or 5 medium little bulbs of garlic. That's what we're looking for. That should do. And then once to peel these, it's nice and easy. You just take your knife, pound it a little bit. It'll get you the garlic out. Not necessarily in one piece, but workable. This is the fun part of cooking, when you just get to smack things. Great stress reliever. And then, what I'm going to want is minced garlic, and the easiest way to get that is, once again, putting it under the knife, giving it a good whack to break apart all the little fibers, and then just hitting it with a rough chop. You don't need to get it minced perfectly, because it is going to go, all of this is going to go in a blender later. And break down that way. And while those tomatoes and the other vegetables are cooking, give it a good stir. We're looking for just that little bit of skin peeling away from the top of the tomatoes. Most of them are there, some of them are not. And those are the big on the vine tomatoes that are taking a little extra time. But as you can see at the bottom of the pan, there's a lot more liquid, and that's what we're looking for. Once those tomatoes start looking exactly how you want them, a little tender, soft, the skin getting a little wrinkled, and you can go in and add your vegetable stock. Basically just want to get enough in to cover the tomatoes. Just leave a little bit exposed, just like this. I'm going to put the cover on our pan, and we're going to let it simmer for about half an hour. All right, and to go with our tomato soup, we're going to make a little grilled cheese. And now the first step to that is something that I think most people will skip. And that's getting a little spice rub to go on the bread and make a nice little crust on the outside. Really adds a bunch of extra flavor to a grilled cheese. I'm starting with a little salt and pepper, and just adding a little garlic powder, onion powder, and then just a very, very small pinch of cayenne. And I know a lot of people won't put the cayenne in because they think it's going to be spicy, but if you just put a little in, all it will do is make your cheese taste better, because the little bit of heat from the cayenne peppers helps distinguish the fat contents between the cheese. So the little heat actually will make it so you taste the different kinds of cheeses more clearly. So we're going to put a little butter on our bread to get the spices to stick and crust up when we put it in the pan. You want to try to get corner to corner, edge to edge, every square inch possible of this bread should have butter. And then once you get your butter situated, take your little bit of spice, take just a big pinch of it and start spreading it around. And once that's good, just cut your bread in half. Add a little extra butter to your pan, because we really don't want it to stick, and with that little bit of extra spice on the outside, it makes it a little more likely to stick. Once that's in the pan, we can add our cheeses. I like to use 3 different cheeses. First, going to add 1 slice of mozzarella, because I think it goes really well with the tomato soup. And we're going to add a slice of Swiss as a harder cheese and something to give it a little more flavor. Cover that up with the top half of our bread. And now we're just going to sit and wait for about a minute, maybe 2, for that to crust up on the bottom and start melting. Now, when you're cooking a grilled cheese, it's almost as much important that you can hear it as you can see it. Once you can push it around and you can hear the bottom slide and crackle a little bit, that means it's going to be ready to flip.
That means it's a good sign it's going to be a good sandwich.
But the best way to make sure it gets that nice little golden crust on it is to leave it alone as much as you can instead of just pushing it around and waiting for the little crunch noise. Looking for some cheese melting, that's good. And let's give this the first flip. Now, that looks perfect to me, although some people will say that's underdone. It's because it's going to go back on the other side for a little extra. So while the bottom side cooks, you may have noticed that I said I like to use 3 cheeses, but then I only put 2 in. I'm going to add a large pile of Parmesan on the top of one side. And then I'm going to add, when I flip it again, I'm going to add more butter to the pan to help make sure it doesn't stick, because cheese is going to get real stuck to the pan if you don't. But when that's done, it should leave a nice, thin, crispy, lacy web of Parmesan on one side of the bread, and it really, really takes the sandwich to a different level. Got plenty of melting going on from the mozzarella because it has a higher fat content, so it'll melt very quickly. The Swiss, on the other hand, has less fat, and it'll hold its shape and give you a little more sturdiness, less goo to the sandwich. But it will all be good going down.
Is that the kind you always made for Rachel, Daniel?
Yeah. Yep.
She loves it.
Yep, she's going to be happy with me tonight when I go over to see her and Patrick.
Are you going to make sandwiches tonight?
No. She just wants the soup.
Oh. Soup, huh?
Now, bread isn't moving quite as much. A little harder to push. That's how I know it's not ready to be flipped yet. Means it's still moist and the bottom hasn't made a little crust for it to glide across. As soon as we're ready to flip it, we'll add more butter to the pan to make sure the cheese does not stick. Oh yeah, that's the ticket. This is the hard part.
Flipping it in one piece, huh?
Yep. Well, flip it in one piece, and then you cannot touch that sandwich until that cheese is crispy. Once the cheese is crispy, it'll be able to slide around a little bit, and you'll be able to tell that it's done. But until then, it's going to basically hold it like a glue in place while it fries in the butter. All right, so we've waited a couple more minutes, and it looks like the cheese is nice and crisped up and ready to come off the pan. Let's see how it looks. Oh, that's nice. That nice little golden web of cheese right there. I don't know if you can pick that up from my microphone, but it's making a lovely little crunchy noise. And that's the way to make my favorite grilled cheese. And it is absolutely delicious. Look at all the melty mozzarella just moving it around and oozing out. It's going to be delicious.
I can vouch for those because they are delicious. Look forward to grilled cheese and tomato soup a lot. But you don't make it a lot.
Nope. It is the time of the year when tomatoes are easy to get.
Yep.
And very fresh. Let me check this. That's looking just... So our soup is ready for the next step. I did make a small mistake earlier and forgot to put in a little bit of basil while it was simmering, so I did that off camera. And that has settled in and steeped in, and now it's ready to get blended. So just add the entire concoction to the blender. Make sure cover's on tight, because it's going to get going. Now we're going to blend this for 3 to 5 minutes to make sure it's very smooth. You want all of the tomato skin, all of the little chunks of garlic and onion and basil to basically atomize and get as small as you possibly can get them. So as it's going, I'm just going to increase the speed. That's going to get a little air in there, make it light and frothy. Doesn't that look great? Now, this was straight out of the pan. We didn't really let it cool much. So you can go right from there to your blender, or if you have an immersion blender, you can use that. You'll get the same results, but it will take a little bit longer. And when your soup starts getting close to what you think soup should look like, we're going to lower the speed. You can take off the top because I'm sure it's not going to spit out at me right now. Take a little spoon, grab a little taste. We're going to add a little bit of heavy cream. Just a little splash. Make it a little richer, make it smoother. And a little extra splash of olive oil to finish it off. Give it a little sheen. Give it a little flavor. That tastes delicious. A little salt. And let's put the top on, and we're going to blend it a little more to help the milk and the fat from the milk incorporate better into the soup. All right, once that's all blended up in a way that is satisfactory to you, looks great. And we are ready to serve it. So, we'll see you over at our table.
Welcome back to our table. And these are the 3 recipes that we made today. They are very delicious looking. Can't wait to eat them. And I'm going to turn it over to Daniel so he can tell you what's in the soup and the sandwich.
All right, for the soup, we had a nice, easy recipe. A little bit of olive oil, a little pinch of chili flake, a large amount of tomatoes, a little bit of red onion, a couple cloves of garlic, about a cup or two of vegetable stock, and then simply a little basil, and then just blend it together with a little heavy cream and a little extra olive oil to get it extra rich and creamy. And for the sandwich, all we used is a nice loaf of bread, a little mozzarella cheese, some Swiss, our spice rub that I showed earlier, and that little Parmesan crisp for the top. I'll turn it over to my grandmother, tell you about her delicious cake.
Today I made what is called our Are You Kidding Me cake, and there's only three ingredients to it. I put 3 large eggs, a box of yellow cake mix, and a can of cherry pie filling. Mix it all up and put it in a 350-degree oven and for 35 minutes, and this is what it looks like, and this is what the piece of cake looks like. And today we made 3 delicious recipes, and if you would like any of these recipes, please send a self-addressed stamped envelope to Dalton Community Cable, 151 Park Avenue, Dalton, Mass. 01226. And that is all from our kitchen today. Have a great day.